Hi, my name is Ed Frawley. I own Leerburg, and this is another one of the emails that we get on a daily basis that we add, and then we pull some interesting ones out and put them in our newsletter. This is an email from Mark, and it concerns setting the level that he should train his dog with a remote collar. And I'm assuming, and I believe he does have our DVDs. We've done 3 DVDs. I did a DVD, I want to say back in 2007 or 2008 on remote collar training for the pet. And then we just recently did a couple with Michael Ellis on using remote collars. I got my first remote collar in 1978 or 79. It was a Dogtra Pro 100A, paid $1,000 for it. Light years difference today. I tell people that remote collars are the best training tool that's ever been devised. They're also the most abused training tool that's ever been advised, which is why they have such bad taste in a lot of people's minds. And it's because people don't know how to train with them. And they use them incorrectly. Let me read this video to you, or this email to you, and then we'll talk about it. I'm in the process of introducing my German Shepherd to an electric collar to further his training. I'm trying to adjust the stim level to the lowest level to start his training, but having some trouble. I've started at 0, and I'm working my way up to find a level that he makes a reaction to. I've noticed him make a reaction at different levels, but he only reacts to it the first time, and then after that, it doesn't seem to bother him at all. I can see the fur raise when the stim level is done. I'm at level 24 on an Einstein collar right now, so my question is, do I keep looking up? Do I keep going up till he notices the stim at every time I press the button? Good question, and the answer is no. Our concept on how we train with remote collars is to use low-level stimulation, and we only introduce the remote collar on commands that we have already trained the dog on, and we know 110% in our mind that that dog understands that command. And we only do it on leash. We introduce the dog when he's on leash. We look for the level, when we try to set the stimulation level to start our training, we look for a level that the dog just begins to notice what the feeling is. And what I recommend people do when they get a remote collar is take it out, strap it on their arm. Start at 0, push the button. Turn it to 1, push the button. Turn it to 2, push the button. Keep going until you just begin to feel a tickle or a tingle. I mean, we're not saying that you should go out there. If somebody takes and puts a remote collar on a dog and they push the button and the dog yelps, they screwed up because they started way too high. And the only way to get a feeling for that is if you put that remote collar on yourself. It doesn't hurt if you do what I'm talking about doing. Put it on, feel it, feel it, feel it. An example is if you use, say, a Dogtra remote collar, most humans don't start to feel anything until they reach 20, 21, 22 out of 125 levels. The last dog that I trained with a remote collar, most of the time I used it on level 14 to 18. That's a level that we can't feel. So those people that say an electric collar is so terrible on a dog don't understand how to train with it, and they don't understand low-level stimulation. The concept of it is low-level stimulation. We go up in the levels when we test it on our dog. We don't start with training. We just put it on the dog. He's not doing anything. Good, bad, we don't ask for a command, and we push a button. And we do the same thing for a dog that we do for ourselves. Turn it up 1, push the button. Turn it up 1, push the button. Look for a reaction where the dog might blink, the dog might look at the ground like what happened there? Or his tail may twitch. That's the level to start at. And you then pair the remote collar with a leash. And I'm not going to go into how to do all of the training with this. But if you're using a remote collar and you get up to 24 and the hair's standing up on that dog's back, you've gone way too far. The idea is not to punish the dog here. The idea for any correction is to change the dog's behavior. Not to punish the dog, change the dog's behavior. So we've already taken these dogs through a lot of training before we're adding an electric collar or a remote collar to the training. And we want to introduce it so that when we have the dog on leash and we have to give the dog a little pop, we pair it with a remote collar and it doesn't freak the dog out. The dog's getting a little pop. He gets a pop and the remote collar at the same time and he thinks, oh, I know what that is, and it doesn't freak him out. And it also doesn't hurt him. You can't hurt him. Don't hurt him when you first start out. That's crazy stuff. Because the odds are with most dogs, you're not going to hurt him anyway, because you're not going to have to, you're not going to take him up to a level where you have to hurt him. What Mark says in this video, or in his email, about how he keeps raising it and then the dog gets used to it. Raising it and the dog gets used to it. Fact is, it's been proven in scientific tests with dogs that if you give little corrections, little corrections, little corrections, little corrections, the dogs learn to ignore them. They learn to go on with life. He's kind of training his dog to accept and ignore the work with the remote collar. Whereas I won't go into the tests that have been done here. One of the best books that I've ever read is one that we sell called Accelerated Learning by Pamela Reed. I tell people, if you're going to buy a book, buy that book. If you never planned on buying a book on dog training, change your mind, buy Accelerated Reading by Pamela Reed, because it talks about the concepts of what we're talking about here. The beauty of these remote collars is once you have a dog trained with a remote collar. When I worked on the Sheriff's Department, my police dogs, and I did it for 10 years, my police dogs wore a remote collar. And every time I deployed with my dog, I put a collar on him. And I'm here to tell you that I never had to touch the transmitter maybe once in 20 deployments. The collar was there, and that's all it took. So people that think that you're going out stemming your dog all the time, if you do your training right, once you get through the training, if you have the collar on your dog, you don't have to do anything else most of the time. Remote collars, the best thing for a remote collar is that it provides off-leash reliability all the time if you've done your training correctly. So in this case, he saw a reaction at some level down underneath 24. That's the reaction. That's the level he should start his training at.